Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this ITIL4 Insight series webinar. This is actually the fourth one of a series of five, where we're looking at each of the ITIL advanced modules, the ITIL publications, and providing just a little bit of insights in terms of what the content is and what's covered, and really trying to give you guys who are connecting onto these sessions a view of whether this course is something that would be interesting for you or your colleagues, where it sits within your overall qualifications and certifications that you're looking to achieve. So today we're going to focus on direct, plan and improve. So we'll get into the sort of the meat of that stuff, but just to do some sort of formal introductions. So I'm Adam Sawle, the Director of Professional Services at CISOP. I know that some of you have connected onto a number of these sessions already, so some of you know me quite well and have gone through my introductions a number of times. But just to provide a brief introduction for those of you who don't know who CISOP are or indeed who I am. Well, CISOP is an organisation. We were founded back in '85. Way before ITIL was born, if you like, but the IT world was very, very different with mainframes being sort of the core infrastructure back then. But it was in the early 90s when ITIL was first developed, and we were one of the first training organisations to pick up the best practice guide, because we recognised the benefit that it would bring the IT industry. And we're providing services, whether it's training or consultancy in this particular area, ever since, really. We put our reasons for our success down to the fact that we have a pragmatic approach. You know, we want to make sure that if an organisation is investing in training, then they want to make sure that they're going to receive some direct benefit from that. So we like to try and maximise the practicalities, the practical understanding taken away from our training sessions, and our consultancy services are there to sort of underpin and support all of those training efforts. Great news is that this means that not only does the organisation have some useful things that they can look at implementing in their own organisations, from an individual perspective, the examination success rate is not hindered at all. So we sort of proudly declare that we've got industry high exam success rates. So that practical approach does tend to lend itself to the successful exams as well. Briefly about myself, I'm our ITIL4 product lead, so I've been spending the last couple of years engulfing myself in ITIL4 best practice, developing the foundation course and all of the advanced modules that we're covering on this particular series of webinars. I've got over 20 years of varied IT experience, which has kind of stood me in good stead, really. I've done a fair bit of working on the commercial side, understanding customers' requirements and trying to line up our product and services to best meet those. I've been at the sharp end, out providing installation and support services for storage area networks and backup solutions and things like that. I've been a software developer. That was my first step into IT, was initially as a COBOL programmer. So I've got a varied set of IT skills, which actually really does help look at this best practice collectively. In terms of qualifications, I've been through the path of ITIL version 2 manager, ITIL version 3 expert, and now ITIL 4 managing professional. So sort of tried this path many times before, and I'm passionate about IT service management, which hopefully is going to come across on this particular session. In terms of today's agenda, let's say it's the direct, plan and improve module that we're focusing on, but I think it's only right that before we get into that content, we just sort of set the scene for what the ITIL4 framework is. Some of you I know who connect onto these sessions have got experience of version 3 and 4, although has been around for a couple of years now, may not quite have an understanding of where it comes from. So we'll briefly talk about the ITIL4 framework. We'll cover off the qualification scheme, and it's this area where we tend to find people have the most questions. So it's probably appropriate at this time for me to say that I'm more than happy for you guys to post any questions into the chat window as we go. I do confess that sometimes I don't pick up on them, but you'll see at the end of this agenda there, we've got a section right at the end to do some questions and answering, and I'll whiz back through the chat and pick out on anything that I've not picked up on. So feel free to post your questions as we go. I may answer them at the time, I may defer them to later on, but it's the qualification scheme which does tend to bring out the most questions, as in, you know, which course is appropriate for me, or how many credits do I have, or those types of things, and I'm more than happy to field those questions. But we'll then get into the specifics of direct plan and improve. Why does direct plan and improve matter? We'll look at the target audience for this particular module, this course, and then we'll get into a section where, well, I'll just really giving you a little bit of a deep dive. Sort of say deep dive, it's only a short webinar, so I'm just introducing them really. But we've got 4 areas of GRC, which is governance, risk and compliance, continual improvement, communication, and OCM, OCM being organizational change management, and then we'll move on to measurement and reporting. So those are sort of 4 areas which I feel provide the core of this particular module, and I think it just helps to just sort of give you a bit of a flavour of what's covered within it. Then move on to what next. I've just got a few things to sort of share with you in terms of what you might be thinking of as your next steps beyond this this particular webinar and things. And as I said, we'll then finish off with the questions and answers session. So I'm intending to be done by 10:30. Broadly, that's where we've been finishing the previous webinar, so should be okay for that. Okay, so yeah, briefly, just to set the scene, what is ITIL? Well, ITIL is today, it does what it always has, but it documents how to do service management. But I think it is fair to say that the IT world is changing significantly from a service management point of view. Over the last few years, there has definitely been increasing pressure placed on service management to keep up with business demand. Businesses always seem to want things faster, better, cheaper. And service management is often sort of seen as being there to make sure that the controls are in place, but often the business sees that conflicts with what they're trying to achieve of driving the business forward, whilst IT is potentially increasing barriers to change because we're trying to make sure we've got some controls. Now, we need to have those things in place, but ITIL4 really, certainly the update from version 3 to 4 is there to recognise that things are changing. We do need to work in ways that support agile ways of working and look at other best practice approaches like DevOps and Lean, and integrate these into the way that we manage our ongoing service management capability. So the purpose of ITIL4 is to provide organisations with comprehensive guidance for the management of IT-enabled service in the digital economy. So we're recognising that the world is changing. The 4 in ITIL4 actually stands for the fact that we're in the 4th industrial revolution. It does happen to be the 4th version of ITIL as well, but if you see it very clearly, very subtly, it doesn't say ITIL V4, it's ITIL4. It's really because this 4th industrial revolution is recognising that we're currently at a point in time where technological developments are significantly changing the way that we live our lives and the way that we do things. And that's really what ITIL4 is all about, just making sure that we're truly representative of how the world is changing, how approaches are changing, and looking at ways that we can put some comprehensive guidance from our service management capabilities and that perspective to ultimately best serve the needs of our customers. So in terms of comprehensive guidance, well, ITIL does just that. It always has. It's the L in ITIL from legacy reasons stands for library, because this is best practice guidance documented in a series of publications. Now, the ITIL4, we have the foundation book as kind of being the first step into ITIL. It kind of covers ITIL at that sort of foundation level. And then we've got these more advanced modules building from that best practice guidance. So we've got 5 of those: create, deliver and support, drive stakeholder value, high velocity IT, direct, plan and improve, and digital and IT strategy. And of course, our focus today is on the direct, plan and improve publication and the associated training module that goes with that. As I mentioned at the start, we have run 3 webinars already for create, deliver and support, drive stakeholder value and high velocity IT, which are available on our YouTube channel, which I'll give you all links to after this event, as I'll send you all an email, so you can have a look at those if you haven't seen those already. And we'll be looking at digital and IT strategy on this coming Friday, 26th of March. So if you're interested in that, then feel free to sign up. But yeah, this best practice guidance is documented in a series of publications, all looking at ITIL concepts in far more detail than Foundation, all from different perspectives, perhaps. But so we're going to look at direct, plan and improve today. Just to also say that alongside these 6 publications, including Foundation, there are also 34 practice guides which are available as online resources through the Axelos My ITIL subscription service. And this is a step away from how they've done things previously, in that because within these publications we talk about areas relevant to these practice guides, it is fair to say that some of these practices are relevant in some of these publications than others. So it would be a mistake for them to purely just list the relevant practices in the publication that's associated with it, because these practices could also be relevant in other publications as well. So the scenario now is that the publications reference the practice guides for the guidance rather than include that content. So you do kind of need access to the 34 practice guides to get a full understanding of where these things come from. As far as the training courses go, though, of course, we do cover some of the practices on the training courses in the areas that are relevant, and you'll find that some of the modules, that some of the practices are covered on 1 or 2 or even 3 of the modules, just to provide that understanding. So it isn't quite as straightforward as previous versions of ITIL, where processes were pigeonholed into one of the life cycle stages, which actually, one of the reasons why they don't do that is that in the real world, that isn't what actually happens anyway. So it's there to reflect that. But yeah, five advanced publications, the Foundation book as well, and we've got these 34 practice guides available for you. And I should say, although I mentioned that the practice guides are available through the My ITIL subscription service, this is a £50 per year at last check. The pricing may vary, but it was £50 last time I checked, and that gives you 12 months access. But sorry, it's £50 per annum, so it gives you a year's access. But if you take an ITIL exam, then this gives you 12 months access to this resource for free. So it's there to sort of support your ongoing development. And the ITIL4 certification scheme looks like this. So as has always been the case, the starting point is ITIL Foundation, which is very similar in format to previous ITIL Foundation courses on earlier versions. It's a 3-day training course. The exams, 40 questions, you need to get 26 out of 40, all of that's the same. But actually, I do consider it to be a course of 2 halves these days, because half of the course introduces many of these new ITIL4 concepts, which, practically speaking, out there in the real world, many organisations aren't following these approaches yet. So that first half of the course is pretty much relatively new to anybody who sits the course. But it's then that after that we go into the sort of practices, and we start to talk about things like service desk and incident management and change, where areas that have been around for a while, and certainly areas that most people can pin some sort of real world experience onto the best practice theory. So once we've achieved ITIL4 Foundation qualification, we can then move on and look at any of these modules that we think are of interest to us. Just to say that these 2 blue boxes, Managing Professional and Strategic Leader, these aren't training courses or publications. These are actually qualifications that you achieve if you successfully pass the qualifications below there. So what we're saying is we have standalone qualifications with the ITIL specialist modules: create, deliver and support, drive stakeholder value, and high velocity IT. And also the ITIL Strategist, direct, plan and improve. But if you were to achieve all 4 of these modules on top of Foundation, then you would become an ITIL managing professional. On the flip side, you'll also see that the strategic leader qualification, the ITIL Strategist module, direct, plan and improve, which obviously is the one that we're talking about today, it contributes towards both qualifications. So it's not a typo, it's very deliberate. It contributes towards both sides. So if you want to just do strategic leader, then it would be a case of doing the direct, plan and improve and the ITIL leader digital and IT strategy module. That will take you to strategic leader. And if you have both the managing professional and strategic leader qualifications, then you meet the prerequisites to go on and potentially do ITIL Master if that's something that you want to pursue, which details of this have not been announced yet, but it's likely to be a sort of a dissertation exercise where you're presented with the scenario to demonstrate your practical understanding of ITIL, or it might be you might demonstrate your practical experience of how you've implemented. As I say, details not released yet, but it's something that I'm sure will be announced over the coming months. And just to say that there is this managing professional transition module here at the side. Anybody who's got ITIL version 3 expert or at least 17 credits on the ITIL version 3 scheme would fit the criteria to attend the managing professional transition module, which is a 5-day conversion, bridging course, transition course, however you want to phrase it, which converts your existing qualification into a managing professional, which means that you don't have to achieve all 4 of these modules. So it's a qualification that's an option which is time bound. The Axos have now announced that this module will be withdrawn. I think it's July next year, so you've still got over a year to achieve this, but it's not going to be around for forever. As I say, this is the area that tends to get the most questions. Looking at the chat, nothing's come in so far, but if you do have any specific questions, feel free to post them either now or when we get to the relevant section. In terms of the exam format, I often get asked this question. So for these advanced modules, there are no case studies. There are no complex multiple choice, which if you've done previous versions, ITIL version 3 lifecycle or capability modules, you'll remember the exam format where it's multiple choice, but of the 4 possible answers, you had one which was the most correct answer, which was a 5-pointer, a 3-pointer, a 1-pointer, and a 0-pointer distractor, as we used to call it. That complexity has been removed, so it's now much more of a straightforward. There are 40 questions, and in each question there are 4 potential options for you to choose from, and it's your job to try and work out which is the best answer. That will give you the mark for that, the single mark for each question. The exams are 90 minutes. You need to get 28 out of 40, and they are closed books. So 28 out of 40 is 70%. In terms of how do they compare to previous versions of ITIL advanced exams? Well, obviously, I've told you the exam format, the question format has changed. But I think they are slightly easier as well. Certainly, this Bloom's level that's being referred to on this slide, it's all about competency levels, the difficulty of question, or rather, the level of knowledge that you need to have on board to be able to effectively answer the question is probably a better way of putting it. Some of the version 3 advanced modules did have Bloom's level 4. So ITIL Foundation, Bloom's level 1 and 2. These modules are Bloom's level 2 and 3. The only exception is the digital and IT strategy module, which I'm talking about on Friday, where it does actually go up to Blue level 4. So it kind of just gives you an indicator that they are perhaps slightly easier than they've been used to as well. There are no questions at higher Bloom's levels, and you are not required to have any experience of working in IT service management for these particular modules that we're implementing. Certainly, direct, plan and improve. Okay, so on to the main topic of the day then, direct, plan and improve. And this is the strapline of bringing IT and digital strategies to life. What I'll say about this particular module is that just in all the years experience that I've got working with clients and helping them align their IT services to an ITIL approach, a lot of the things that are covered in this particular module are those aspects that often get overlooked and lead to an unsuccessful improvement initiative, perhaps, because although we sort of can be focused on the things that we're trying to improve, we don't perhaps look at the bigger picture, take a step back and look at how is an organisation going to embrace this change that's coming along. How are we going to effectively communicate? How are we going to make sure that we understand who our key stakeholders are and how we're going to get them on board and demonstrate to them that it's a positive change that's taking place and get them to come along on the journey with us. A lot of this stuff kind of gets overlooked because it's quite tricky to get these things in place. And I'd say that this particular module is really an effective one at really trying to pull together the things that are needed to sort of drive those improvement initiatives. So we're sort of saying overall that coordination and collaboration are crucial. Absolutely, if we want to be successful with these significant improvement initiatives or change initiatives that we're driving forward, and direction, planning, and improvement all form key parts of that. From a direction point of view, then we want to make sure that if we're investing significant time, effort, money in terms of any sort of program of work, project, change initiative, improvement initiative, we need to make sure that it's fully in support and in alignment with what the business is trying to achieve overall. So direction needs to be sort of provided from the top down, and we need to make sure that everything that we're doing underpins the strategic direction that the organisation is moving towards. So direction plays a key part in that. Planning, of course, we need to make sure that we have effective ways of going about doing our planning. We need to create a shared understanding of how work will be organised and managed, and that's a key aspect to this. You know, and we're going to look at things like waterfall approaches and agile approaches in this particular area. We're going to look at things like the service value chain, which I'm going to cover on a slide shortly, to sort of demonstrate that through all of our planning activity, we need to be mindful of the vision that we're working towards, the current status, and ensuring that we are moving things in the right direction. So planning's there to sort of make sure that we're all working in. We have coordination. We're helping to reduce waste and risk, and we're looking at introducing ways where we can be iterative with continual re-evaluation and adjustment on an ongoing basis. And of course, improvement. You know, we don't just do something and leave it there. We should be looking to instill a culture of continual improvement into our organisation. So we're always striving to get better, and everybody has a part to play in delivering that for us. So from just thinking of previous versions of ITIL, we used to have a continually service improvement module. Well, we talk an awful lot about improvements on the direct plan and improvement. In fact, it's this one where if you were sort of looking for that traditional continual improvement guidance, then it would be this module, which I think you would find the most relevance within this. So direction, planning, and improvement are all three key aspects, really all about looking forward. How can we take our organisation forward and make sure that we're doing it in a nice, coordinated way, which is in complete alignment with strategic direction. And that really forms the backdrop of what this module is all about. And as I mentioned this, you may not be familiar with this as a concept, and on the purposes of this webinar, I haven't really got a lot of time to go into it. But just to say that one of the key concepts which has been introduced with ITIL4 is the service value chain, which just demonstrates the end-to-end flow of receiving demand from our customers, and we do all this stuff in the middle ultimately to provide value for them. And this stuff in the middle, which I'm going to be being deliberately vague at the minute, includes plan and improve, which is two aspects which are very much covered on this particular module. So this gives you a flavour of how this fits in with this particular model. But it's all of the ongoing planning activity across that end-to-end value stream, and all of the improvement opportunities that we can perhaps work towards on an ongoing basis as well. So it kind of covers everything across the piece. So I put this slide in there really just to sort of demonstrate that it's those two areas of the value chain that we focus on this particular course. The other areas are covered in much more detail in some of the other modules. And a lot of words on this slide, so I'm not going to just read them out to you, but just to say the learning objectives for this particular module, Direct, Plan and Improve. Obviously, there's a few things in there, just key concepts of direct, plan and improve. At the bottom here, how to direct, plan and improve value streams and practices and all of those things. I've picked out areas from here which I'm going to go into more detail just to bring this to life a little bit more. So we're going to talk about GRC, which is governance, risk and compliance. We're going to talk about continual improvement. We're going to talk about communication and organizational change management. And we're going to talk about measurement and reporting, which does give us a sort of a fair reflection of the specific learning objectives for this particular module. In terms of the target audience, so we broadly talk about this as being anybody that's playing an active part in a single or ongoing improvement opportunities within the organisation. So we've got continual improvement managers being an example job title there. So it could be somebody who's a service owner or people who are specifically looking at taking things forward across the organisation. So individuals responsible for planning, reviewing, improving products and services, planning work, improving products, managing organisational change, interfacing with governance, risk and compliance, all of those aspects. Some of your role or all of your role is aligned to that, then this module would be of interest to you. And actually, I don't know if any of you on this particular session either has looked at the ITIL version 3 practitioner guidance book or have the ITIL version 3 practitioner qualification even. I think it is safe to say that Direct, Plan and Improve it covers much of the same content as that particular module. It kind of has been updated to reflect ITIL4, but it is very closely aligned. And actually, I always used to say back then that it was one of the best ITIL courses that was ever released because of what we've seen out there in terms of how organisations are struggling to embed change initiatives into their organisation because of a lot of this stuff that we're covering on this particular course is missed. So anybody who's directly involved in those areas benefit from this reading the book and attending this particular training. So in terms of the topics covered on Direct, Plan and Improve, well, I've kind of given you a bit of an insight through on the previous slides. I'm not going to go through and read each of these, but just to share with you in each of these sections the things that we cover off. So in the strategy and direction section, then we look at all the things that sort of contribute towards alignment of IT strategy with business strategy, making sure that we are moving things in the right direction that the business lead us to. So strategy management, risk management, portfolio management, which happen to be ITIL practices, those three areas would form part of this. And governance, risk and compliance, which we can spend a little bit of time on an upcoming slide to talk us through that, would also formulate areas of strategy and direction. Assessment and planning. So going to look at the basics of assessment. So we'll introduce assessment types, recognizing that assessments can be qualitative, which means they can be opinion driven, or quantitative, which means that they could be evidence driven. So we're sort of looking at giving examples of those. If we're looking for a qualitative approach, then having a experienced individual assess our IT capabilities based on their experience, that would be an opinion-driven assessment. Somebody who comes in with an audit sheet of things that you need to comply to, where we're looking for specific evidence, that would be a quantitative assessment type. And we might have a hybrid approach to that. So we talk about those things within the assessment, basic assessments, just to give you a bit of a flavour. Basics of planning, again, another example we've touched upon, differences between a waterfall approach and an agile approach to planning. So we'll cover those types of things. And value stream mapping is looking at sort of lean approaches to workflow and look at identifying waste and looking at the end-to-end delivery of something. The service value chain helps to support within that, making sure that we're clearly seeing that map of things that we're looking to do. It helps us to identify potentially ways to optimize and improve things. Potentially we can look at ways where areas where we think that we're taking too long to deliver something, or where it's too costly for us to deliver something, tying up too much resource. That map of that end-to-end value stream is really useful for us. Measurement and reporting. So there is a measurement and reporting practice in ITIL4, which is separate from continual improvement, which is the next point there. So we've sort of stripped the two apart to say that we need measurement and reporting to give us some measurement metrics, key performance indicators, those types of things, which we can use to gauge current levels of performance and set some perhaps targets in terms of how we might want to improve some of those things. We'll look at types of measurement, sort of say looking at the reasons why we measure. Is it to measure progress, compliance, effectiveness, efficiency, productivity, or different ways that measurement would be relevant? Look at measurement and the 4 dimensions. Now, the 4 dimensions is reference to an ITIL4 concept. The 4 dimensions of a service plan is effectively organisations and people, information and technology, partners and suppliers, and value streams and processes. And the suggestion is that if we're thinking of those 4 areas, then we have a holistic approach to service management. So in this particular section, we're looking at how we can measure across those 4 dimensions to make sure that we do have that big picture view of what's going on, how well we're performing across those 4 areas. And measurements of our products and services, ultimately it's products and services that as an IT service provider we are providing our customer. So we need to make sure that we've got a measurement framework in place to ensure that they're continuing to provide the right level of performance for ourselves and our customers. Continual improvement, say it's this module which covers continual improvement, and we look at the continual improvement model, which is on a slide that I've put up. It was in previous versions of ITIL as well, changed very slightly. Measurement and reporting in continual improvement, as we just talked about measurement and reporting, you can understand that the improvements and measurement and reporting go hand in hand. Creating a continual improvement culture. Of course, we want to try and embed improvement into our organisation as a culture, so that everybody's contributing towards improvements as they go. Continual improvement of the service value chain and the practices, and continual improvement in organisations. Again, just really recognising that across the organisation, everybody's responsible for improvement opportunities. There are different types of improvements. It could be an individual looking to improve the way that they do things, right through to a significant business transformation improvement project. So different scope within that, but that's kind of what's covered in that continual improvement in organisations section. Communication and organisational change management. So yeah, I think having effective communication is key. I think that's a fairly obvious thing to say, but defining communication strategies, making sure that we're looking at who our stakeholders are, doing stakeholder mapping, identifying appropriate communication plans, all of those things will fit into this particular section. And organisational change management within ITIL4, it is a practice in its own right, which is new to ITIL overall, but recognising that often a lot of what we talk about in ITIL4 is introducing change. So we need to make sure that we're thinking about how the organisation is going to be positioned to adapt to that change. So that all comes out in the basics of organisational change management section. And developing a service value system. So ITIL4 introduces the service value system. I've not covered that on this session, but it is sort of the headline concept. So it includes these areas that we want to be mindful of. So adopting the guiding principles being one of the components of the service value system. There are effectively 7 best practice statements, I suppose, that we want to sort of try and instill into our organisation, almost as a culture actually, so that we know that we're guiding the organisation in the right way. So we'll have to look at how we can adopt those guiding principles. Look to establish a centre of excellence for service management. So things like the service management office here, and looking at our service management capability and looking to optimise the way we do things in that area. And the 4 dimensions in the service value system. So I've talked about the 4 dimensions over here in measurement and reporting, where we're looking at measurements in place across there. We're just looking at those 4 areas across the piece to make sure that we've got that holistic view of our service management capabilities. So that's kind of a whistle-stop tour of all of the content from both the Direct Plan and Improve book and the associated training course. Just to sort of go into these 4 areas in a little bit more detail. It's not going to spend too long on them really, but just to say, governance, risk and compliance is obviously a key aspect for every IT organisation. We've got to be looking at governance controls that we have in place. We need to be effectively managing risks, identifying and managing and mitigating risks. We have compliance. We all have legal regulatory requirements that we need to work towards. So we still need to make sure that we're compliant and we have controls and guidelines in place to help us with that. So in this particular section, we look at each of these 3 areas in a fair bit of detail, just to sort of walk you through each of those aspects. I will say governance is also a component of the service value system, and it's this particular module where we talk about it significantly. Governance obviously is there to support and constrain the way that we perform our activities. So governance gives us that clear direction of how we should all work. Clearly, risk. There is a risk management practice. We want to make sure that we do identify the potential risks, things that could harm our organisation, and make sure that we put some measures in place to overcome them. And as I've said, from a compliance perspective, then we need to make sure that we're in a position to pass audits, that they're not breaking any against any regulatory guidance that could harm us as an organisation. So we need to ensure that we have those things in place. And the 3 things kind of do work together really. Ultimately what we're looking to do is there's a concept of principled performance. We're looking to make sure that we support that, which is effectively all about achieving objectives while addressing uncertainty and acting with integrity. And that's what we're going to working in that direction. Then we're doing a good job basically. But these areas really help and support and underpin our efforts in doing that. So continual improvement, there's a lot said on this particular topic on this module, really just introducing it on this particular slide. I will just sort of throw this out there, that those of you who have done ITIL version 3, the continual improvement model is here on the right hand side. It used to be called the continual service improvement model in previous versions. There's one extra step added into this diagram on the right here, which didn't used to be there, just as a little bit of fun. If anybody can think of what that is, just stick it in the chat window and we'll see if we can identify what that is. But I'll just broadly cover it off whilst you're perhaps doing that. So continual improvement, using the model as a way of driving our improvement activities. So this model, in terms of, if we're talking about alignment, strategic direction, then we need to understand vision, the business vision, IT's matching, supporting mission and objectives. Understand the vision. Moving up to where are we now? We're looking at the assessments that we can perform to understand our current levels of performance or where we are, and use that as a platform for improvement. Where do we want to be? So that's where, in support of the long-term view of vision that we're trying to work towards, what are the specific measurable targets that we can work towards, and let's look to set some targets to demonstrate that we're moving things in the right direction. How do we get there? Obviously, this is all about the improvement planning activity. Identify what the improvement plan is going to be. Take action, which is all about executing those improvement actions. And nobody's been brave enough to jump forward into the chat window to give me an indicator of which is the additional step. It is this one here, take action. We used to just talk about how do we get there through to did we get there, or how do we know that we have arrived is what we refer to it as. But actually, there's obviously the step involved in executing improvement actions through the take action. And did we get there? Sort of how we evaluate metrics and KPIs and all of the good things that measurement and reporting is going to give us to help us with those things. And this thing of how do we keep the momentum going all fits in with other areas. We're looking at if we understand who our stakeholders are and what our effective communication strategies are going to be, then that's going to help us with this as an ongoing improvement opportunity. Now, I've taken the time to take you through each of the steps in this model because the module, this direct plan and improve module itself, it does just that. It goes through each of those steps, and you spend an awful lot of time about sort of defining the things that are required to effectively use this particular model. So that's a key part of it, and just some examples of those things. Assessment, objectives, outputs, requirements, criteria, the potential assessment methods that we can use, how do we define and prioritise outcomes, building, justifying and advocating a business case. Obviously, we can't just drive through any improvement initiative that we want to. Then we've got to make sure that it's business justification to do it, so cases needed. Conduct improvement reviews and lessons learned. Yeah, we want to be making sure that we're looking at identifying opportunities to improve and embedding a culture of continual improvement into the value system into this. So just got a question. Does the continual improvement model take into account value creation? It does. I mean, ultimately, value... ITIL4, well, ITIL generally has always sort of talked about we want to provide, facilitate the outcomes that the customers want to achieve, and that should give them value. So when we're looking at where do we want to be as a section here, then there will be a huge emphasis on, okay, what are the outcomes that customers want to achieve, and what are those outcomes going to enable our customers to do? And that's value. So it's within this area that I would suggest that we would have that specific focus on value creation, and that's where it would plug into this particular model. Communication and organisational change management. So I do like that organisational change management has come into ITIL. It's one of the reasons why the traditional change management practice in ITIL has now been renamed change enablement, just to sort of clearly distinguish between change management and organisational change management. One of the reasons, it's not the only one, but it does sort of help, because it's true. We need to make sure that through our significant improvement changes that's going on in our organisation, we need to be looking at organisational change to make sure that the organisation is ready to accept what we're looking to do. So we have an organisational change management practice which has the purpose to ensure that changes in an organisation are smoothly and successfully implemented and that lasting benefits are achieved by managing the human aspects of the changes. excuse me, which is all fine, but obviously that it can be very difficult to achieve. So we talk about things like overcoming resistance to change to help us with this, or identifying and managing who our stakeholders are, and that's what I mentioned earlier about stakeholder mapping, engagement plans, and those types of things. All sort of help us with these things, and these are all covered in this particular module. And communication, obviously communication is between people, and we talk about forms of intelligence on this particular section, where we're looking at how we communicate, how we work with other people. And these three specific forms of intelligence are covered. Emotional intelligence, which is all about recognizing feelings of the people that we're working with, so that we can make sure that we can empathize if needed. We can change our behaviors to meet what they're looking to do. Social intelligence in terms of how we interact with others, and systems intelligence of recognizing that we all play our part in a system overall, and there are certain rules and patterns that we need to observe on an ongoing basis. So we talk about those three forms of intelligence on this module to demonstrate how we can more effectively work together as an organisation. And we look at ways of communication, effectively communicate and influence, and we have these 5 areas, which I'm not going to spend any time on now, but communication is a two-way process. We are all communicating all the time. Timing and frequency matter. There is no single method of communication that works for everyone. The messages in the medium. Effectively, we're looking at 5 areas there. If we sort of question the way that we communicate, just to give an example, if this communication is a two-way process and we're just sending emails out to people with information and we're getting no responses back, then we can't be clear that our message has got through. So we need to try and work out what our communication strategy is going to be, being mindful of these 5 areas is what we're getting at here. And establishing effective feedback channels, putting things in place to make sure that we are able to gain feedback from users, customers, and overall. And that's a key aspect of communication as well. So that all gets covered in this particular. Measurement and reporting. So as we've already mentioned, there is a separate measurement and reporting practice outside of continual improvement there, but it clearly goes hand in hand with it. I mean, its purpose is there to support good decision making and continual improvement by reducing uncertainty. This is achieved by collecting relevant data and assessing it in appropriate context. So it's this particular practice which is all around measurements, metrics, key performance indicators, and in this particular section we're looking at the reasons for measurement. Why do we need to have measurement in the first place? We look at some approaches which are all aligned to measurement cascade and hierarchies, which is referring to the fact that we sort of have a structure from top down in terms of how we do things. And an example of that is the planning and evaluation model, which is in the bottom right hand corner here, where if we're looking at business purpose overall, then you would expect the specific objectives of the business are there to support its purpose, and therefore we can look at indicators which are there to support the objectives, and we can have metrics which sort of give us clear data statistics which to work towards hitting those indicators themselves. So we have this sort of cascade approach. Also, balanced scorecards, IT component to scorecard hierarchy, and organizational improvement cascade. All sort of examples of measurement cascades and hierarchies which are covered on this particular module. Success factors and key performance indicators are part of this, and also how we can use the SMART model. The specific, measurable, achievable. I always forget this one. Reliable. Timely, realistic. It's realistic, not reliable. Sorry, got caught myself out there. Realistic time. I think some different models do have reliable, and others don't. But in items about reliable. So 5 areas where if we're looking at our objectives, then we can use the SMART model as a means to make sure that they're effective objectives and they meet those 5 criteria. Okay, so that's direct, plan and improve. So what next? Just always like to post at this point the feedback survey. So I've just posted that in the chat window. I'm not quite finished yet, but if you can provide us with some feedback, we're always looking to improve the services that we offer. So if there's anything that you've got to suggest to improve the way that we run these webinars today, that would be great. One of the questions that you'll get on there is whether you want to opt into our marketing communications. Many of you on this event are already opted in anyway because of the fact that you've signed up. You may well have seen it through that means. I will just say that I recommend that you do opt into it. We're often trying to provide these services which value add extras to our core portfolio of services. And if you don't opt in through the feedback form, if you actively opt out, then we'll have to remove you from the system, and you won't receive those updates anymore. So please do tick that if you do still want to hear about things like today's session. Just to share the news, the ITIL version 3, the discontinuation announcement has taken place. We now know the timeframes that we're working towards within this. So ITIL version 3 Foundation will be discontinued as of the 1st of July 2021. In fairness, we are not really providing any services in this area anyway. I think people are now moving across to ITIL4. ITIL version 3 Intermediates is relevant because some of you may not be quite at the 17 credits to meet the criteria to bridge across yet. So you might want to be looking at these ITIL version 3 Intermediates to bridge the gap to optimize your spend, perhaps. But you need to be aware that these modules, this is the life cycle and capability modules, they're going to be discontinued at the end of the year. And I've mentioned this already. There is an ITIL4 Managing Professional Transition module, and that is going to be around for a while, but it's going to be discontinued as of the 1st of July 2022. So for those people who are looking to bridge across, this is relevant for you guys. In terms of training options, then we have a few options. We're hopeful that we're going to be able to return to the physical classroom fairly soon. We have some courses which are scheduled in the classroom, and we're really confident that we're going to be able to go ahead with those, touch wood of course. But as you might expect, over the last 12 months, then our capabilities in terms of virtual training delivery, online training delivery has increased. So we've got a few dates here of virtual training courses which are running. So if you are interested in direct plan and improve, well, unfortunately you've missed this particular date because we have one running this week, but the next one is this week rather. The next one we have running is on the 14th of June. So if you want to sign up for that, then you'd be more than welcome to. And just to explain the difference between virtual and e-learning, there's both online options. Virtual is trainer-led over Microsoft Teams or Zoom. I think these actually all over Zoom, thinking about it. 3 days where a number of different people connecting from different organisations, and we deliver the course across 3 days, and we give you a training voucher, an exam voucher at the end of the session for you to go and book your exam online at a time that suits you. Whereas e-learning is pre-recorded content, so much more than 3 days, we give you 90 days access to our courseware for you to study at your own pace in your own time, and similar arrangements for the exam. You're provided with an exam voucher for you to go away and book your exam at a time that suits you. And for all of these things, we are able to offer private events where it tends to be more cost effective if you've got 4 or 5 or certainly more than that people. Then in terms of sending people over to us on public dates or us coming to deliver a private event for you, whether it be physical classroom or virtual, then it's more cost effective for us to come to you if you've got 5 or more people. So private events are there available for you to consider as well. So all of these modules that we're covering on these sessions are available, and I'm happy to field any questions that you have on any of these, either in the chat or after the event. Special offers at the moment. So this is all based on these services being booked before the end of April. ITIL4 Foundation training, e-learning, public and virtual outings. We've got some discounted pricing for you here. I'm going to send you details of all of these after the event. You don't need to worry too much about it now. If you are planning an ITIL4 Foundation virtual training course for your team, come and talk to us because we're offering a 20% discount at the moment. ITIL4 advanced modules, then each of them that I mentioned on the previous slide, there is a 30% discount for all upcoming virtual course outings that we have scheduled. And again, we're also offering 20% discount on private bookings as well. So if you have got a team of people interested in any of these qualifications, then let me know. I often get asked about managing professional transition. Well, we have it wasn't on the previous slide, but we have a classroom-based course running in Manchester, week commencing the 7th of June, which is currently available on special offer as well. Again, details will be sent in the email. And we also have a set of bundles where if you are looking to achieve all 4 managing professional modules to get you to the managing professional qualification, then we do have a discounted price based on you booking all courses in advance and completing them over a 2-year period. So we have those for you. We also have a bundle for managing professional, transition, and digital IT strategy, which are the 2 courses that an ITIL version 3 expert would need to get to get both qualifications, strategic leader and managing professional. So yeah, I'm going to send you an email. If there's anything that I'm talking about which is of interest, then just ping me a reply and I can gladly help you with any of those things. Upcoming virtual events. Well, if you weren't able to attend Create, Deliver and Support, Drive Stakeholder Value or High Velocity IT in this series, they're all available on our YouTube channel, so I can get you links for those. This week, on this Friday, we've got the final one of these webinars, Digital and IT Strategy. It's 9:30 on Friday. We've also got a couple of events coming up that may be of interest. We've got a Problem Management in Practice workshop virtually delivered on this Friday, 26th of March. We've still got places on that, I believe. So if you're interested in that, it's £249 per person. And on Friday, the 23rd of April, we've got a 1-day virtual workshop on managing major incidents, which is also £249 per person. Other online offerings, we have taken our business simulations and made them available online. So we have Agile Service Management practical workshop called Marslander, which basically the way that these things work is it's a workshop which is using a real case study of a mission into space. For this particular one, it's around the mission to Mars and very topical at the moment with the Explorer going on up there. But it's about supporting that particular mission, looking at ITIL4 concepts of value streams, visualizing work, managing end-to-end value creation and creating high-performing teams, all brought to life in an online, fun, team-building virtual environment. And we also have our traditional Apollo 13, which has been updated to reflect ITIL4. This is available if you're looking at more of a traditional support service, things like incident management, problem management, change, continual improvement. All of these messages are embedded into that. So I will just say I strongly recommend these as sort of team building, fun, experiential learning events that if you are interested in them, then feel free to send me an email after today's event. Okay, just going to repost the survey in there. If you can give us a few minutes of your time to provide us with some feedback on today's events, then that would be absolutely great. But I'm more than happy to field any questions that you have on direct plan and improve or any other module. I think I have managed to keep on top of the questions as they've come in so far. I think we've only had one, but I'll keep chatting for a second to see if anybody else has any questions to contribute. Nothing as yet. So I can see a few of you sort of disappearing, so I'll just thank you all for your attendance today. I say I'm happy to stick around for a few minutes and answer any questions. It's always good to have your support on these events, and hopefully what you've seen today is good information for you to take on board and think about whether this module or these modules are relevant for you, and hopefully we'll get the chance to see you on some of these events very, very soon. Okay, guys, it looks like there's no questions coming in, so I think I'll sign off there. Wish you all a lovely day, and as I say, I hope to see you all very soon. Okay, take care. Thank you very much.